Lovely. So tonight we're going to talk about all things nutrition, and hopefully answer some burning questions that you might have around weight loss and habits, etc., etc. So tonight we have the wonderful Jools, and I don't know whether anybody checked out the video that she has on her website, but as Jools is quite a hilarious person, it was quite hilarious, wasn't it? I loved it. It's so you, so honest.
I know. Well, we didn't know whether to go all serious, and it just felt so awkward. I was like, I'm just going to put all the bloopers in.
I thought it was great, absolutely great. So if you haven't watched that video, oh, there we go. Melissa's dog has taken over. So yeah, if you haven't actually looked at Jools' website, then please do go and have a look at that video, because it's so you, Jools. It really is.
A calamity. That's not the only thing you can describe me as.
So I'm going to hand over to you. So if you just want to do a bit of an intro, and then we can come to questions.
Okay. So hi, I'm Jools. It's lovely to see you all. I have worked in the nutrition industry for, God, nearly 15 years now. But only recently moved over to doing online coaching. Spent the best part of it working in the film industry. So very in real contrast to what I do now, working predominantly with men to get them big or lean for certain roles. But being northern, it started to take its toll traveling. I've got 3 children up here. And to be honest, didn't find it massively challenging, because when they're getting paid millions to get in shape, they just do it. And there wasn't a great deal of, I like the psychology and the habit forming element of nutrition. So it seemed like a natural leap to veer towards general population. And just by nature, I tend to attract women with children or teenagers in the middle of or post-menopausal women. That tends to be my target market, and that's the market I enjoy working with, because the topics surrounding it interest me the most, if you like. So yeah, I've been doing that, the online element, only really since January, February this year. I had a dabble in corporate, and then lockdown hit, so that became absolutely redundant, because there was nowhere to go and speak anymore. And I've really found my feet with this. This has definitely been the happiest I've been career-wise in the entirety that I've been doing it. And by nature, I don't know if anyone can relate, most clients, the biggest thing I deal with is women that have yo-yo dieted their entire life and are absolutely fed up with losing weight, gaining a bit more, losing again, gaining even more than the first time. They just tend to fall into these patterns whereby every time they take on a new diet, it has a new set of rules, a new set of do's and don'ts, can'ts and cans. This is good, this is bad. Language, very negative language like cheating, sins, all these negative connotations that subconsciously we just ingest, and then create this horrendous relationship with food unknowingly. Half of the time we don't even realize it's happening. And then I think what's equally important to me is clients with children are completely unaware of the impact that the way they talk about themselves and the way they talk about food has on their children. So a part of my mission is to kind of re-educate my generation of parents in order to save the next generation. And it's not even just girls now, it's boys as well, have been saved from this world of diet culture whereby they kind of come into their adulthood thinking that their entire life has to be spent battling against the number that defines them on the scales, and that they feel a lot more of their worth is in that weight than is actually what's happening in reality. So I'm just very passionate about getting people to reconnect with seeing the body as something that as they owe a great deal to, rather than something to chastise and fight against your entire life, because that's essentially what a lot of us do.
Yeah,
so
I don't think that's really helped by kind of role models on social media like Instagram. You know, there's so many fitness and nutrition specialists, isn't there, you know, out there that are basically just being paid to show off a product or show off.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a completely, and it's quite frightening how impactful nutrition is on your health, yet it's a completely unregulated industry. So there's absolutely no regulations whatsoever on. So you can have come off the back of Love Island, have genetically looked out on every gene pattern going so that you've got a natural six-pack, muscles everywhere they're supposed to be, and sell skinny tea and meal plans even, having never studied an hour of nutrition in your life. You just happen to look the part. And sadly, people, that there's that message there that if they look like that, they must know what they're talking about. And it just couldn't be further from the truth. It's very dangerous.
Yeah, it's quite frustrating, really, for people that have got the qualifications, do know what they're talking about.
Yeah, no, I do think there's a new wave coming through. It's certainly changing. I know I'm certainly starting to follow, obviously, just by nature of what I do, I have to follow anything that is currently in the industry. And there's a lot of body positive accounts coming around, and they're generally millennials. So they're kind of hitting that younger generation, where they're women of a more, let's say, I mean, there isn't a normal, but women in bigger bodies that are absolutely promoting self-love, the fact that there's so much, what we weigh is the least interesting thing about us is generally the message, which I think is a brilliant one. And it's starting to come. You're getting these outspoken, strong, impactful young girls that are getting that message across, that, there's beauty in size of any size. And also, I think a lot of young girls, certainly with programs like Love Island, are led to believe they have to look like that to attract the other sex or the same sex or whatever, whoever it is they're trying to attract. And I think those messages are starting to come through, that people find all shapes and sizes attractive. And it doesn't seem like a massively strong link to nutrition, but actually it is, because a lot of young girls put all the value in how they're being perceived from an attractive perspective, again, because of social media. So I think that message has to be honed through, certainly. But from my perspective, my client base, it is more that, like I said earlier, that disconnect with one's own body. People don't see their body as something they have to nurture. They see something they see it as something that they want to fight against. I think that's very prevalent with women that have spent their life going to these diet clubs, getting caught up in diet culture and being told, or being sold the concept that they'll feel happier when they weigh a bit less, or when they've reached the goal, the happiness lies at the end of that. And the ones that do reach that goal but have other issues realize that the happiness was never in that weight on the scales. So generally my job is to show these women that the way we look is a result of the lifestyle we live. So if I can get people to start creating healthier habits and doing things that make them happier in the mindset, the byproducts of that is sometimes weight loss, if that's what they're looking for. The key is not to focus on weight loss. The key is focusing on, are they getting outside more? What's their routine like before they go to bed? What do they do first thing when they wake up? How are their relationships? How much support do they get at home? These are all things that we work on. And I don't really actually discuss weight loss. We don't, on weekly check-ins, we don't, unless that's something that they've brought up. I will never raise how much weight they've lost, and it just, weirdly, it kind of becomes the last thing that they talk about. And it's so lovely to see, because that's the way it should be. It should be this side effect of improving things in our life that we've kind of let slip, that have had a negative effect on our self-care, if you like. And when you tend to put those things back into place, like getting more sleep, getting more steps in, getting more pulses, grains, all this boring stuff, if we get all those things, just, all the ducks in a row, the weight loss just comes as a side effect from it. And it's lovely to see people not putting all their energy onto that and realizing that the happiness lies in all the tiny little habits that lead to the weight loss. So it's really about spinning someone's perspective right back the other way.
Yeah, I mean, so many conversations that I have with prospective personal training clients that I never end up taking on, because they just want to throw money at me to train them once or twice a week, and they think that's going to be enough. You talk to them about the nutrition side of it, and they're like, no, I'm all right with that. I eat healthy. And I'm like, well, give me a snapshot of the sort of things that you're eating, and you can see that maybe like Monday to Friday we've got a really good routine, and then the whole of the weekend is spent stuffing takeaway and drinking alcohol, and then thinking, well, because maybe I go and train them on a Friday, that they've done enough by doing that session to negate anything they're going to do over the weekend. So
yeah,
it's the amount of people that I don't take on because that's their attitude towards me is kind of like, well, you're going to train me and I'm going to lose weight, but I'm not going to put any kind of effort into changing my lifestyle other than employing you for an hour once a week, you know.
Yeah, that's it. It's an entire uphaul of your lifestyle, really, and it is a generic saying, but you can't out-train a bad diet. And I think that's sometimes, and that's the other thing I spend a lot of time is rejigging people's concept of training in the gym, you know, and we're trying, it's not something that I associate with a factor that will contribute to weight loss. The calories that are actually burnt in the gym are quite minimal. The point of being in the gym is to, especially for women, you know, 35 plus, is the way resistance training for me is like life insurance. It's the benefits for females. God, I could just go on about it all day. And so I try and get them into the mindset of that. Going to the gym, it's not to slog yourself for an hour and see how many calories you burn. It's to, you know, improve bone density, improve your tendon, improve muscle mass, which in turn prevents you getting frail into older age. It's such an important factor, but it's not something that needs to be put in the box of things I do in order to lose weight. It's things you do in order to become stronger, grow into a non-fragile older woman, and get it massively improve mental health, because there's no feeling like it, is there, when you've come out.
Absolutely.
But
I agree with that. You know, so many people think a gym session has to be like, I've totally beasted myself, and they look at their calorie burn and they're like, yeah, and I burnt off that donut I just ate, and it's just a crazy way of thinking about it, really.
It is, and they always are quite shocked by, you know, if you look at kind of how your calories are burnt in a day, and you see that God, probably it's a bar chart like that, and about that much is taken up with just being alive. A tiny weeny bit is exercise in the gym. The same amount is energy needed to digest food, and then the second biggest chunk is just general movement and activity during the day. And people, you know, they'll not go to the gym. They'll miss a session at the gym and go, right, I've blown it, and then fall off the wagon and just overeat, neglect themselves all week, when actually that gym session that they missed was so irrelevant to what would have happened if they just let it go and carried on trying to keep all the good habits in check. There's that real all or nothing mentality as well, is something that as humans, we're really bad for, especially with dietary habits. And it's where the Slimming Club failures come in. It's the restrict and binge cycle. So try and restrict yourself. By nature, that makes you want to eat things even more than normal. So you go and overeat something, tell yourself you've been a complete failure. So as a result of that, you're going to only eat salads for the next 5 days and train every day. It's not, no one can keep up with it, because we've got a million other things going on in life. So they don't make it to the gym the next day. I've fallen off the wagon, I might as well have fish and chips for tea. And then it just goes downhill from there the whole week. When if they just missed that gym session and maybe had fish and chips one night and gone, that was great, I really enjoyed it, life was too busy today to go to the gym, it's fine. I'm very big on the sum of averages. If we just go to the gym, if we manage to go, you know, 3 times instead of 4 this week, at the end of the year, keeping up that consistency will be so much more effective than trying to be perfect and then
do you know what,
the wheels go off.
I'm saying this all the time because that's what my groups are around. This is kind of where these guys have come from, is the challenge groups. But calling it a challenge is kind of almost, for some people, is a little bit negative, because if they don't do every day of the challenge, they feel like they've failed. And I've had a few conversations with people around, oh, I can't do it this month because it's annoying me, all the notifications that I need to do it. and I'm not doing it, and that just makes me feel even more of a failure. And it's just really difficult to kind of find something that fits everybody's psyche.
Yeah.
So
all right, and I think
I'm all right at kind of going, oh, do you know what, I'd rather do it every other day or every 2 or 3 days than not do it at all. So for me, that, you know, if 1 week I only did 3 sessions, another week I did 7, that's fine. But for some people, it's like if they get into week 2 and they're not keeping up, it's like, oh my God, I've failed.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to find like the balance with people. So
it is, and I think that attitude of having to be, you know, it's a perfectionism attitude, and it's not useful in life, really. You know, it's some, you know, you see perfectionism seen as like a good thing, but actually it's quite problematic for people. I think a lot of people that are perfectionists would choose not to be for this very reason. And this is something I'll work on the psyche of, sorry, I've got those things flashing down, on the psyche of imperfect action. It's a really big thing I work on, because it's probably the number one thing that leads people to fail, is they can't get their head. I've just had a consultation now with a client who's like it, career-wise, has absolutely nailed everything in life because she's a perfectionist, but just can't, you know, just cannot lose weight. It's the one thing she won't address, and it's because she can't apply that perfectionism to it. So we're working heavily to work. What I try and get clients to see is that you're a sum of your averages, you're a sum of what you do 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year. So look at this, whatever you're doing over 52 weeks, and go, the fact I've just gone out, ended up drinking 3 bottles of wine and eaten 2,000 calories, is over 52 weeks, how far from my goal is that going to put me back? And the reality is maybe half a day. If you carried on doing everything else consistently, you'd maybe be half a day later to you reaching your goals. And if you take yourself further away from the situation and look in and see that it is that imperfect action, the people that nail the imperfect action are people that nail consistency. And as dull and boring a word as consistency is, it's absolutely what gets people to where they need to be. And all my clients that lose weight do it really slowly and steadily, but are so boringly consistent. And it's this, it never fails to work. It's the clients that we call it leaning into. I did a post on it this week because I got what happened. I'm training to do this horrendous event in September, running up Snowdonia. So I'm having to go further and do my running further and further and further, a lot more miles. And I was doing really well with it. And then something happened that stopped me going. I can't remember what it was. Then I got norovirus, which has again, this is me and my calamity life. Got one of the kids was isolating obvs, because whose kid hasn't been made to isolate. Then we got norovirus, and it spread through the entire family within not even 48 hours. Really? I even took my mum out, would come to help me when I had it. Then Luke went away, so I basically couldn't get the house for 3 weeks. So I couldn't, and I feel like I'd got to a 10-mile run, and I feel like I tried to do 5K the other night, and I couldn't even do that without walking. So my mentality in the past would have been, well, I've messed it up. It's gone. Doing it. But the post I did was, the point is that I've got to lean in and be comfortable with this inconsistency, because this is the reality of life. Unless you are someone that only has yourself to think about and is very good at motivating yourself, all of us have things that come in our way, blindside us, stop us in our tracks when we've got onto doing something really well. And this was a fine example of it. And you've got to be as comfortable with the times when things go wrong and things come to a stall. And for me, for clients, I always say, no one checks in when they're gone wrong. They check in when they've done everything that week. Yeah. Because as a human, it feels really good to go. Morning routine, did it. Protein goal, hit it. Calorie goal, hit it. The weeks where they haven't done any of that, they don't check in. And they're the weeks where we need to sit and go, right, how can we what went wrong and how can we change it and how can we make this. But by nature, people don't want to discuss when they've gone wrong. They just want to focus on and get their adrenaline and their energy from when they're doing really well. So a big thing we work on is leaning into that discomfort of when it has gone wrong, being all right with it. Because if you're all right with it and you know that, for example, with my running, I know what I did to be able to get from basically nothing in January to 10 miles. And I know I've got it in me to do it again. And I know that I can make time in the future to do it again. It just didn't work these last 3 weeks and it didn't happen.
No.
But if you've done something before, you can always do it again. So it's leaning into that comfort about things. So when people, and again, I do understand that when we've done a 100K challenge this month, and there are clients who, again, the consistent ones just nail it every day, but they're giving people that aren't doing so well anxiety. So I can see how it happens, because comparison is a thief of joy. You know, the minute you start comparing yourself to anyone else, and to do it, I've always been very private on Strava, because as much as I've got into running, I'm very slow. I'm like an old cart horse, and I'm doing it because my job is to teach people to stick to habits. I pick something I can't stick to, which is running, and I'm training myself to stick to it, because then I know how my clients feel. So I've always kept Strava very private, but for the sake of the challenges in my group, I had to open it up. So now I can see what everyone else is doing. They can see what I do. And it takes everything in me not to fall into that trap of, oh, well, they're running a minute faster than me, so I need to start training harder. And it's pathetic, and I know it's pathetic, but the point is, I do see how people fall into it.
Absolutely. That's what I mean. It's just trying to get that balance, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the balance. And it's,
should we come and see if we've got any questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, so who are we going to come to first? Who's got a question for me? I love it.
Bring in the dog.
staring at the screen. So if I choose a name, will you speak to me and give me a question? So Hillary, if we come to Hillary, can you unmute yourself?
Hiya.
Hello.
Hiya. I'm just laughing because I'm just resonating with what you said. Hiya. Can you hear me?
Yes, I've got you now. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Hiya. What you've been saying has just been resonating with me, because I've been through all that, losing weight, all the rest of it, and I just think I had a word with myself. We were told a couple of months ago we'd have to go back into work, and I think a lot of us thought, oh my God, clothes won't fit, all this sort of stuff. So I took the approach, like what you said. I went to a new gym that was opening up, and I've joined, and I've done classes, but I haven't been doing, obsessing with the calories and things. And without thinking about that and getting my mind around it all, I've been losing weight, but that wasn't my goal really. So yeah, I think it's right. I mean, I've been every weight under the sun. I've had every size. I've been yo-yo dieting since maybe 16, even before. Yeah. And then I went to uni and had anorexia. I've had bulimia. So I never really even know when I'm hungry. So I've had everything. So yeah, so I'm just trying at the moment with the going back to work, everybody's seeing me looking older and all the rest of it. Yeah, I've just been trying to do that and not focus on the food. But I found if I do like yesterday, I did a HIIT class. I'm not really feeling hungry after that, but I am eating something because I think I haven't had any tea. But it's just making me think that I'm feeling good about myself because I've done something, and it's not just weight, it's just done a class, and because it's new, it's all social, so made loads of friends. So yeah, for that's just another bonus didn't expect to do. So yeah, I've been feeling quite good lately. Yeah,
that's brilliant. And that's just exemplified what I was saying earlier about the weight loss. Like you've just said there, the importance of what you just talked about wasn't the weight loss, it was all the other things. And that's when it stays off, because your lifestyle has changed, and the way we look is a result of our lifestyle. So that's what needs changing, not our weight. So that's just exemplified it perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, it's early days, but I'm just trying to get my head around it all. Yeah, and you keep thinking, well, I'm not getting any younger, so I'm doing my hypopressives, obviously, for my pelvic floor. Yeah. And I think when you get to sort of this, you've got to just invest in maintenance, or whatever you want to call it, but you've got to invest in maintenance, looking after yourself. And you mentioned life assurance, and I think, you've got to get yourself together, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's because it's a depressing thought, but it's not really about longevity of life. It's about how long we can live a really high quality of life. And I think that's what, investing in ourselves and doing the things we're doing and getting into training in hypopressives, we're just trying to ensure that our quality of life stays as good as it can be for as long as it can be. I think that's the most important goal for us now.
Yeah.
It sounds so depressing, doesn't it?
No, it's true.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's like into your old age, isn't it? I mean, I think that once you've gone through the menopause, that's what you're thinking, and I've literally just gone through it. So I think you start to think, well, actually, I need to keep myself so I can go for long walks, so I can do the things that I want to do and enjoy life without seizing up, without being in pain, without you know, having leakage, without, you know, all those awful things that other people might associate with someone of that age. And
and on top of that, just what it does for, you know, I mean, the evidence to show what exercise does in terms of, gosh, every single health marker that you've got, we know improves. I mean, I won't bore you with all the studies, but there was, in real short, there's one called the Dallas bed rest study, where they basically took a load of 20-year-old uni students and made them stay in bed for 3 weeks, I think it was, and then took all the health markers from doing no exercise for 3 weeks. They'd all basically took all the blood, so they got things like cholesterol, measured resting heart rate. They'd all regressed to the blood markers of that of a 50-year-old just by not being active for 3 weeks. Then they got them, I think that's a week's intensive exercise, and got them the markers back to where they were. Anyway, then they followed them all through their lives up to the 50s, took all their stats at the 50s, and they're all, you know, generally the national average for 50-year-old, and then made them do a month-long endurance training extravaganza. So got them all really physically fit, strength training. And I think it was 98% of them got their health markers back to what they were when they were 20, just by doing this intensive exercise. So it's things like that you've got to think about. We know that exercise lowers cholesterol, lowers resting heart rate, increases maximum heart rate, takes you further away from being pre-diabetic, reduces your risk of any heart disease. It's just, the list goes on and on and on of all the thing. It basically reverses any risk that is a risk of getting older in age. So there's no reason not to do it.
Yeah, it's just, it can be just so hard to get people's head around that.
Yeah, and just but I think as well, it's because people's kind of mental assumptions of what we mean by exercise. You know, again, it's that they feel they've got to go in a gym and have someone shout at them for an hour and come out sweating, when actually a 20-minute walk for an old person a day could, you know, well, we know that for someone that's never exercised in their entire life, that starts exercising at 60, adds on average 1.5 years to the life expectancy. So that's having never done any exercise. It just shows that that's to get the point across. It's never too late to start. And that's just from walking daily. You know, exercise means moving. It doesn't mean slogging yourself. And I think there's a bit of a mix in messages there, with some people feel that when people are telling them to exercise, even the government, you know, messages trying to get out there more, and all the cartoons are people like in a gym on cross trainers, and I'm just like, no, you don't need to get that. It doesn't have to be that way. Just getting someone out walking for 20 minutes a day,
finding something that they enjoy, finding something that gives them a buzz, you know, that's the main thing. You know, that's what I struggle with. Sometimes you get consultations and people are like, well, you know, it's like, well, why do you want a personal trainer? It's like, well, you know, I need to lose weight and I need to do this and I need to do that. And it's like, well, you know, what sort of things do you enjoy doing? And, you know, it's finding that. And actually it's really hard to kind of write someone a program or get them to do gym type exercise if it's just not really their bag. You know, the amount of clients that I talk out of being my client and just tell them to go and find a nice Zumba class, or if they like dancing, or if they like cycling, whatever it is they like doing, to start doing more of that than actually
Absolutely
worrying about sweating their, sweating their balls off in a gym, really.
And I think you kind of take it for granted that if you do enjoy generic exercise like walking, running, going in the gym, we're very lucky, because there are people that never do. I've just got a new client that she does rebounding, at the trampoline park. Yeah. I'm like, wow. I mean, I don't know how she discovered she was into that, but I just thought it was such a great hobby. I was like, it just sounds amazing. I'd love the thought of going and doing that twice a week. So and then another one does dancing. There is this, like you say, some people do go out there and find it, but some people don't have that confidence to go. And that's what you were just saying about joining a new gym. It's brilliant, and you've found loads of friends from it. It's great. It's just some people don't have the confidence to go and do that, and because of that, there could be some amazing activity that they're great at that they never discover.
Yeah. I think for me the hardest part was like walking in the gym. So I once I got over that, and I said, look, I don't know if there's anything here for me. I said, I'm 55, yada yada, and I couldn't have been made to feel more welcome, really. So that was, once I'd done that, it was okay from there.
Yeah, it's just taking that, isn't it?
It is. And the thing is as well, God, it's like one of those scenarios where we create this scenario that's going to happen when we walk in the gym. It's like we think everyone's going to turn around, like one of those nightmares in a Hollywood film where everyone's like pointing at you and laughing at you. And actually, as a human, when a new person comes in, I go over the top. Like I play hockey, and when a new person comes down to train, because I remember how nervous I was, I'm almost too much. I'm like, oh, my name's Jools, come and join me with this. Because I go into overdrive, because I'm like, I really want them to think that we're a nice bunch and want to come back. So, but that person will never imagine that happening before they turned up. They'll just be like, oh, I'm going to walk in and everyone's going to ignore me. And it's such a weird concept. I really admire people that, because some people just aren't bothered, are they? They're genuinely not bothered. They'll just walk in. I'd love to be more like that, but
no, I think even I mean, I'm used to going to the gym, and I'm used to, well, I'm not at the moment because I train here, but before that I was used to going to different gyms, but I don't like particularly the gym environment. I like doing the training, but if I have to go somewhere new, it quite stresses me out quite a lot, and that's someone that trains a lot. So that's just because I just don't, I don't like that environment of posiness, and I just want to go in. Well, and
again, it's an industry where there's a lot of people slating each other, isn't there? So in a gym, you're putting yourself in a vulnerable, and then you do get people that it's such a controversial topic, because there's always that fear that if you're doing something, I mean, I've had it happen to me where people come and start telling you that you should be doing it a different way. I'm like, I've got a trainer who's writing the program. I'll just stick to what I'm told, but thanks for your advice. Like how polite or impolite do you be to someone that tries to tell you what to do? So I think there's always that fear that someone's going to come and start critiquing you in a gym. Which is a horrible thing.
I need to have a cap right down over my eyes if I'm in, and just like go in and go on tunnel vision. But I'm just putting it out there, because you'd imagine that I'd be like really confident going into a gym, but often I'll be a bit like, oh, maybe I won't go.
No, I'm exactly the same. I've trained.
Maybe I won't go.
I've just joined a new gym, and I do find like if I walk up to something, I'm worse if I generally do free weights, but if there's none free, I go on the machine bit. And I'll just chicken out, because I'm like, what if I sit on it the wrong way around, or I don't know. And I've been training for 25 years now, but I still have that. But what if I'm sat on it the wrong way around, and everyone will be laughing at me, and I'll just walk away and not bother doing it.
No, I'm the same. If I get on something and I think, oh no, the seat's not set properly, I don't know how to adjust the seat. I don't want to use this anymore.
I'm gone. I've left early.
Right, let's come to another question. Michelle, have you got a question for me? Or Jules?
Yes, I've got. Well, it's more some general advice, really. So, like, I'm 54 in a couple of weeks. So I'm sort of 3 years through into the menopause. So I spent my whole life struggling with weight on and off, and did all the yo-yo things over the years, and then kind of stopped with all of that. But then about 2018, literally as I went into menopause, I went pretty much plant-based, and it wasn't for a fad or to lose the weight. It was because of my love of animals, and suddenly it just didn't. My dog was sick at the time, and I just had this thing of, how could I spend all this time like caring for my dog and eat another animal? And I was so happy with that, and literally the weight unintentionally completely fell off me, and I was at a weight that I was really happy with, that I had been for years. But then I found after probably 6-7 months, some of the foods I was eating, I was trying to get more proteins in and pulses and things like that. And then I was struggling to digest them. So then I was getting bloat. And then I was like, I got a nutrition friend who said all about your protein, your collagen. But I was happy. I didn't want to eat these other things. I was really enjoying a massive variety because I love cooking. Massive variety. But to fit in with family, I do eat a little bit of meat products now, and I've brought some fish and things in. But I don't really feel comfortable with that. And I feel as if I've lost the plot with it a bit. The last 12 months or so, it was like I was losing all my strength. And so with the gyms closing down, I'm one of these people that does love the classes. I'm happy in the gym. I like my Zumba. I was doing all my legs, bums and tums and toning. So, of course, a lot of that stopped. I lost a lot of my strength literally out of nowhere. Found I'd got not a massive issue with prolapse, but the prolapse is there. So then I was wary of what exercise I was doing. And then gradually everything was just tightening up and tightening up. And then yesterday I went and had a bone density scan. And so it's hereditary because my mum struggled and her mum struggled as well. So I've been diagnosed. I've got osteopenia in my spine. So my hips were okay ish, but my spine's like -2. So I'm only like 0.5 away from osteoporosis. So now it's not so much it's more a general, if you've got any tips or advice on. I never did well on dairy anyway. So as soon as I stopped the meat, like the animal products, I didn't do well on dairy. It used to give me headaches and sinus issues and tummy pains and things. So I literally went, stop eating animal products to being pretty much plant-based. And it's just, how do we fit that in if you're struggling to digest some of the plant-based foods, getting enough collagen, enough calcium. I've always been wary of calcium supplements because I know they can clog up your arteries and get in the wrong places, can't they, if you don't digest it well?
Well, there's not strong enough evidence to confirm that's for definite. I think first and foremost, Nikki, I hope will back me up here, in terms of the osteopenia in your spine, the thing that will help with that more than anything is load bearing resistance training. So and not so much just body weight stuff, like actually quite heavy weightlifting, compound movements like squats and things like that. But that's not my area of expertise. That's Nikki. But I do look a lot into osteopenia because, again, it's very prevalent with menopausal women. And across the board, all the evidence just points to resistance training as being the number one thing to counteract that. So that's certainly something to if you enjoy the gym and things like that.
Yeah, I'm gutted because the only class I ever hated was body pump. With a passion. And everybody says we do body pump, and I was like, but I hate it. To me, I like to move to the music, and it was it was static. So I was just here with a bar and
I mean it would almost be worth totally changing your mindset and doing all the classes you love, and maybe doing one session in the gym with a PT or somebody at work, get someone to program for you and accept, I'm going to go do 40 minutes of weightlifting, and that's almost the same, if you like, as in the same way you take a statin if you had high cholesterol. That is literally your medication for osteopenia. That is the most effective thing you can do. So not try and put it into just accept, I don't love it. It's 40 minutes of my week, and it's the pill I take to stop me getting osteoporosis, and then still do all the gym classes that you absolutely love, because that's what you get your kicks from. I think you'd have to put them in separate boxes and not try and make them the same thing. The gym for you is enjoyment. The resistance training is for your future health and preventative medicine, if you like.
Yeah.
That would be the way to look at it. And in terms of diet, I'm just trying. So you don't, I mean, in terms of, I'm just trying to think. There's obviously vegan protein. Have you ever dabbled with that?
Yeah, again, I'm not really into processed stuff, so you know, I don't eat typical vegan. I make a lot of my own, so like I will soak and like dehydrate nuts to make them easier to digest. I love playing around with food. I love all the beans. I mean, I love chickpeas. They just don't love me. So some of the time I will struggle with that, and I just find it quite frustrating that what everybody else would see as a really healthy diet, I love that food, but I don't necessarily feel it's giving me everything that I want and that I need, because I can't always digest it as well as I might.
It sounds like you may have a have you heard of low FODMAP diet?
Yes.
So there may be elements of that you do. How do you get on with things like just basic ingredients, things like peppers and onions and apples, things like that? Are there any fruits that you don't get on with, or is it generally just beans and pulses? And
it's more beans and pulses and glutens. I struggle more with grains. Like I'm not great with rice and gluten and things like that. But
right.
It's more. So I mean, I could happily eat. I mean, for me, a nice meal would be I make my own homemade soup. So I'd have my soup and I'd have my salad. I'm thinking, but I've got to get the protein in there. So I can put in those beans and things and the nuts, but I don't always. I'm thinking, well, one, is it enough? Is it enough protein?
Yes.
And
the problem with, so you've got all your essential amino acids are the things that, and you need all of them, essentially because they're like, your essential amino acids are like letters, and when you consume them all, they create words. So to put it really literally, let's say the words are repair and renew muscle, repair and renew skin cells, help improve bone density, etc., etc. So as a vegetarian or a vegan, you have to educate yourself on which foods contain which of the essential amino acids and ensure they all come into your diet. There are foods like, do you like tofu and things like that? Will you eat things like that?
I can eat it, again, because it's soy and soya. I was a little bit wary of having too much of it. So I've had like the, the blood tests that you can do that actually check to see if you're reacting to foods. I've had those done. Again, I think there's a lot of debate about how useful they are.
Like not useful. Sorry.
So I think, So I just think, because I was wary like with the hormones, but so I've had like my hormone testing done and my estrogen level and my progesterone are on the floor. So I know, so at the moment I'm doing things like the golden paste, with the turmeric and the coconut fat. Are you familiar with that? And the black pepper to try it, because I know that's estrogenic, isn't it?
I think.
And the flaxseed, I've ground, like sprouted ground flaxseed. I sprout a lot of my own, like broccoli seeds, and sprout those things.
So there's loads of health elements going in there, but in terms of your bone density, we need to be getting calcium and all the amino acids in there. Now, in terms of tofu and estrogenic risks, there's no reputable evidence to show that it has any negative effects on our health whatsoever. Tofu's got all the essential amino acids intact. So for you, it would be an absolutely fantastic thing to incorporate into your diet. In terms of protein powders as well, I think you've not to think of those as a processed food. They're essentially, I know you wouldn't have whey. We probably wouldn't have whey because it's an animal product.
I used to have like the pea proteins and things like
that.
And
they now are formulated. The vegan protein formulas are formulated so that they have all those amino acids present that I was talking about. So it takes all the guesswork out for you. So if you would incorporate those into, I can't reiterate enough how it's seen as like a synthetic food. Again, I'll use whey protein as an example, but I know you won't consume that. But it's not a processed food. It's just a food in the same way that whey's made the same way that cheese is. And people will happily eat cheese and think of that as a natural food, but put whey protein into this bracket of like, oh, it's processed and awful. we were always taught, Nikki wrote the example of Little Miss Muffet, she's eating her curds and whey. It is a food, it's not a processed element. And the same goes for vegan protein. They've basically gone, what are all the best things we can put into something to ensure someone has optimum health? And they've created that product. So as a vegan, if you can bring vegan protein into your diet, you're essentially, you're doing more to boost your health than anything else in terms of eating grains and pulses and all the rest of it, especially with osteopenia and the need to boost your strength around your spine. That would be the one massive thing that you could do to change your health, would be to start consuming regularly some sort of vegan, there's pea protein, rice protein, any of those. Pea protein's got the best amino acids.
There was one I used to have, I can't think which brand it was. Again, I liked it because I hadn't done so well on peas and rice. I was a little bit, so things like, because I'm a functional foodie, to me I don't worry about what things taste like. So like I'll put 2 great big spoonfuls of like hemp powder in my smoothie. I mean, my family look at me, they're like, your food looks like mud. And I'm like, but that's okay, because it's,
but you're fine with it.
And I'll get so much like the sprouted flaxseed, and I'll throw that in as well. So I'm putting those different, but it's whether those are enough. I think a lot of it is hereditary. I mean, my mom's had spinal fractures when she was 70. She's lost loads of height. So I know there's a hereditary element.
Absolutely. And that's why the more you do now, you know, you kind of, without sounding negative, you know it's kind of coming, but we also know there's so much research on it because it's so common, and we know that resistance training and a high protein diet are the 2 major things that will counteract it. So the
protein's really important, because I know with the animal products, you say, oh, it's the acidity, isn't it? It's not so great to have too many of those with the bones.
Again, evidence, there's a lot of scaremongering around protein and what it does to kidneys and all the rest of it. So to put it into perspective, if a high protein diet is around 2 grams per kilogram of body weight, that's for someone that's looking to gain loads of muscle. Someone that just wants to maintain good health, you should be eating around 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. So it's a lot higher than what anyone generally consumes. So most of my clients that weigh between 60 and 70 kilos are on about 130 grams of protein a day. So it's quite a high protein amount. So then we start to see why a protein shake, which contains 25 grams, you suddenly start to see that in consuming 2 shakes a day, you're 50 grams of protein. So you've nearly got halfway there just by having 2 shakes, which is a lot easier than eating 50 grams of protein in food. They end up feeling like they're eating too much food. So for you as a vegan, your protein intake will naturally be quite low. So for me, it would be a non-negotiable to include a protein shake. And literally all the hard work you're putting in with dehydrating nuts and sprouting seeds, I can't reiterate enough that protein shake has 100 times more value towards your health than all those things put together. So that's something. And also, I won't go on too long because I'll bore everyone. But for me, for you, I'd like you to look up, and I'll happily send you information on it. Creatine monohydrate is another absolute non-negotiable for you. As a vegetarian, it's something that we ingest through meat. So we naturally have it in us anyway. And it's a precursor to our ATP energy system. So what creatine is designed to do in our bodies, what it actually does is encourages your muscle to retain water, and that it allows for the creatine to stay in your muscle and create power and energy. But because it started as a performance drug, and anything that enhances performance, obviously it gets a ridiculous amount of money into research behind it. So it's the most researched drug of the lot. And for the neurological benefits of it are becoming more and more prevalent. So what it does is enable people, it improves memory retention, it improves anything cognitive, and when sleep deprived, we know that people perform better on it. Menopausal women generally tend to have poor sleep patterns, can go through
I have
stages.
that. I'm really struggling with that.
Right. Okay, so creatine basically enables you to perform better on less sleep. So for mental health, it just makes everyone feel a bit more with it. But for the vegetarians, they get the biggest benefit from it because it's not naturally present in your muscles, whereas it is in anyone that eats meat. The benefits of it are magnified for vegetarian. And any menopausal client I put on it, they just can't believe it's not something you can put your finger on. It just generally is like, just takes the edge off all the horrible side effects of the menopause and just gives us more energy. So especially if you're, you know, if you are struggling with, obviously, if any of your osteopenia starts to be debilitating, it will help counteract that. So I won't go rang on about it. I'll happily send you the information, but if you, I just
that would be great, and look at it. Yeah, definitely
research it, because it will have huge benefits for you. And then please just get some vegan protein powder, because honestly, I can't tell you how much more that will benefit your health than everything that you're already doing. And it requires far less effort, because you just have to, and you can have a scoop of protein with all your seeds in there, whatever milk, your milk of choice, I don't know, coconut milk, whatever milk you like using, frozen berries. So you're getting all your foods that you enjoy eating.
Put them in comfort. I think it was Sun Warrior I used to have.
Yeah, that is a good one. That is a good one. Rich used to use Sun Warrior.
Yeah. I didn't know they did that, but there's another one out there called Plantar Force. That's another good one.
Right. Yeah.
That really good protein profile as well.
So that would be that, and try and somehow put a dual resistance training session in a week. And I can't, again, just go and have a look on, you know, go and find the research on the benefits of resistance training for osteopenia, and it'll just
thinking what to do, because whereas before, like, I would do like plank and the yoga and things like that, a lot of those things, because of the prolapse, I've been wary to do. Like, I used to go on the power plate a lot and do a lot of things on there, and I was just wary really of you know, doing the wrong things. But I know I need to get this work done with my spine.
There's still stuff you can do, absolutely, even though you've got the prolapse. So, you know, I can talk to you about that another time if you want.
Yes, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Get Nikki on board with the resistance training, because well, I'll let you go, but I just can't reiterate it enough. It's an absolute no-brainer.
And they say, because obviously I only found out yesterday, and they sort of pointed me in a couple of directions about you can't really reverse this, but I don't believe you can't really reverse anything as such if you work at it. So, well,
even if you can't reverse it, you can certainly stall it and
stop it getting any worse.
Stop it where it's at. And if at the moment you're leading a fairly normal life and enjoying it, if we can stop it right there and you can live your life like that for the next 20, 30 years, it's definitely worth doing.
Yeah. I'm seeing how much my mum struggles. It's one of those, isn't it? You've got that forward mirror in front of you.
Exactly. And I think when it's genetic, and when there's someone in your life that you love and care about, and essentially remind you of yourself, it really hits home, doesn't it? That
definitely.
Brilliant. Okay, so I'm going to move on now, if that's all right, because we are starting to run out of time. We've done an hour now, can you believe? So we've probably got another. You're all right for another 10 minutes, Jules? Yeah. Okay.
So it's getting me out of childcare, so I'm happy to stay on as long as you want.
It's so quiet, it's unbelievable. So let's make the most of all these moments that we've got. So let's move to Debbie. Debbie, have you got a question for us?
Well, I haven't specifically, no. Obviously been fortunate enough that my weight is not yo-yoing. I've always been small, and I don't actually have a weight problem. But I just was coming to listen and just see what you had to say. When I saw Nikki the other week, she did say to me about protein. So I probably need to up my protein.
It's I've never had a client yet that just naturally eats enough protein, because culturally we're just not really programmed to do it. We're brought up to have, a light breakfast. Lunch usually consists of as much as a slice of ham in a sandwich is about as much protein as we go, or a bit of chicken on a salad. And then we all eat, generally meat and vegetables on an evening. And the reality is we should be eating that kind of quantity of meat at every meal, but we're just not programmed to do it. And people find it a bit overwhelming. But then conversely, when I do get them to hit the levels that I put them on, they're just blown away by it. For not like yourself, Debbie, but for people who do spend the whole life hungry, trying to fight the hunger, they just can't get over how full they feel and how much their thoughts are not preoccupied with thinking about food all the time. And that is simply because that message of consuming protein just hasn't been hit home enough in our lifetime. It's like it's always been there and we've always known it, because the reason being, it's protein's at the top of the satiety index. So out of all the foods, it will keep you the fullest for the longest and give you the highest chance of making sensible food choices. So it's a great tip to know if you've got like teenage boys. It's the ultimate. Everyone's like, I just can't fill my boys up. Well, if you give them loads of protein, but unfortunately it's the most expensive way to fill yourself up. It does come.
My two very much have a massive bag of protein powder, and
Yeah.
they mix it into muesli, and they have protein shakes, and they're
Into
really
yogurt,
because they love their weight training. So
yeah,
they're doing it for kind of an aesthetic and a bodybuilding type thing, but also it's a great habit to be in, to have, because actually buying those big bags for them of the whey protein is actually fairly inexpensive.
it's quite a cheap way to eat. Yeah,
and I think with Ollie being a student, he's trying to think of all the cheap ways that he can get enough protein in.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a bizarre thing, because eating more protein probably sorts out 80% of my clients' problems. Inherently, that's where most of the problems lie. And from a health perspective as well, the protein and fat are the two food sources that we literally can't live without. Carbohydrates are an absolute bonus, and I'd never discourage people from eating them because they're amazing. But if you were put on an island and never saw a carbohydrate again, you'd still thrive. Yeah. If you were on an island and there was no protein, you'd eventually wither away and die. Every single, we are completely made entirely of protein. We are made of those essential amino acids. Every single cell in our body has come from an amino acid. That's why it's so vitally important.
So important as you age, isn't it?
Pardon?
So important as you age.
The biggest reason for falls in old age is sarcopenia, which is muscle wastage. Yeah. And the biggest cause of that is older people, the appetite decreases. They certainly don't have any desire to eat great hunks of protein, when actually we know that if they eat bolus doses of protein, so that's big doses at each meal, like 25-30 grams of protein, that's the level they need in order for muscle to be retained in the body. If they don't keep consuming protein in old age, our muscle just starts to naturally wither away. Yeah. Again, it's why as a female, if you eat high, keep your protein levels high and resistance train, you are directly reversing the risk of sarcopenia, which is when, eventually that's when you see just women and men that just look so frail and tiny and have nothing left on the frame. Yeah. And we know for a fact that once you have a fall in old age, your risk of recovering from that fall is very slim. You generally tend to hear it, don't you? When people have a fall, quite often it leads to their death eventually, not in a direct way, but they just deteriorate after it. They get less confident, they're not as comfortable moving around. So a real big onus in old age is to prevent that initial fall. It's why I know my mum's in the 70s and just had been assessed by the doctor. It was the first thing they asked, have you ever fall lately? Because it gives away so much. It's such a sign of frailty, and fall is usually as a result of either something neurological, which creatine helps, or sarcopenia, which protein helps. Yeah. So you can see where I'm going with all this. It's just absolutely. Protein and resistance training and creatine. They're all these things that just improve our quality of life into old age. They're so important, and no one talks about them enough.
No.
Well, I love eggs, and eggs are obviously good for you, aren't they? So maybe I can get more egg in me as well, perhaps.
Yeah, there's 6 grams of protein in an egg, so the more the better. And yeah, absolutely, the benefits to your heart, the choline in them in the yolk is massively beneficial to heart and preventing cardiovascular diseases. So bash on as many eggs as you can.
And I love them because you can do all sorts with them, can't you? And
they're so versatile.
And I love them all the ways. So yeah.
Right. Definitely something.
Thanks, Debbie. We're going to come to Melissa finally. Have you got a question for me, Melissa?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, all right.
Yes, thank you. I haven't really got any questions. I was just taking it all in, really. I'm only 40, and as Nikki knows, well, she can remember me telling her I've got quite a bad prolapse. And I'm not overly overweight, but since having my last child, he was quite a big baby, and I've sort of struggled to keep to a weight that I like, but I like my food, and I get bored and I eat. So yeah, and I find myself snacking at night times because I'm tired and I'm bored, and that's what I want to try and stop doing. And I just don't have the willpower to stop it. I go for about a week and then something happens and I gorge again.
Yeah, and that's totally understandable, because we can't rely on willpower. Willpower is finite. We don't have an unlimited supply of it, and things like children, probably the biggest robber of all our willpower, stress, and anything that comes along, it's literally a direct pattern of, if you were to sit all day in a hotel room by yourself with a load of magazines, when it came to the night, you scientifically would have more willpower to not eat, say, a Kit Kat. If we then put you in a room with 4 kids to look after, 6 dogs, a man that was just going around causing destruction and making a mess that you're tidying up after, and then put the Kit Kat in front of you, there's no way you'd be able to resist the Kit Kat. So willpower gets sapped from us throughout the day. So it's not something you can rely on. And I know I sound like a broken record, but when people's issue is snacking on a night, the answer is to up the protein throughout the day. And it sounds ridiculous.
No, it's true.
It's honestly, again, it's that thing where clients can't believe it. They're like, I got to 10 o'clock and I didn't have my head in the fridge because I just felt so full. It just wasn't on my agenda. So if you did want to try and do anything to stop it, the answer would be, just even if you did it for 2 days, make a real effort to try and eat about 100 grams of protein and see, as an experiment, if that still happened on an evening. Because I would put a night, I'd be 90% positive you'd be able to control it. It's nothing to do with your willpower. No one can expect you to have willpower when you've got a busy, stressful life. But the physicalities of eating protein will be the thing that stops you doing that. And it's not like, when I say protein, you have to live on chicken breasts. Like for me, again, I've just been the client before I came on here. We've been coming up with protein recipes, like skyr yogurt, for example, is a brilliant source of protein. I mean, I've just found it's called Lindvarg. It's like another brand of skyr, and it is a lemon cheesecake pot. It's 18 grams of protein, 100 calories. We got her sprinkling a little bit of ginger nut in because it only added about 60 calories, and she's effectively eating a lemon cheesecake for 100 calories and 18 grams of protein. So it doesn't have to, when I say eat high protein, I don't just mean eat loads of chicken breasts and fish like a bodybuilder. The food industry has adapted so well to the fact that proteins come more in demand, and there's so many products out there. Yeah. If anyone likes cheese, mini Baby Bells, that's an absolute favourite with all my clients. We call them protein pills. There's hardly any calories in. I think is there 8 grams of protein in each Baby Bell. So again, it's a great one to just have in your handbags, and just all these little things will add up and will stop you snacking on rubbish on a night. So it's just something to just try as an experiment and see if it works.
Okay, thank you.
Brilliant.
Okay.
I think the takeaway is going to be we need to do more resistance training.
Yeah.
To suck it up and just add it into our week. We need to make sure we're hitting our protein targets on a day, and we need to take creatine. Yeah,
that literally is my 3 most. If I had to pick a top 3, it's no surprise that they've been the things I've talked about the most, because the evidence wipes the floor with how effective they are. So if you did want to go and look at the science, it backs me up in every element. And just from an anecdotal point of view, any menopausal women that are put on creatine, it's for some of them, it's like literally a game changer in terms of how they're feeling. So yes, I will happily send anyone. I've got the thing with creatine, because it needs to be saturated in our muscles. So there's a loading phase where you have to take quite a lot for a week, and then you go down to a maintenance dose, which you take every day for the rest of your life. So if anyone wanted those, it's worked off your body weight. That's how you work out how much you need. and it's a very cheap flavourless powder.
Yeah, maybe you could send that over.
I was going to say, shall I just send it to you, Nikki, and then?
Yeah, just send me any information that you've talked about, any of the protein powders that you suggest. If there's any kind of help sheets or anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can just share them. And then obviously, if people want to come and do something with you, then just your website, which is
lifeandfork.co.uk, and Instagram is life_and_fork. But yeah, everything's there on the website, and you can get me through there as well.
Okay, well, if you send that through to me, then I can just post it into all the relevant groups, and
yeah,
hopefully people will benefit from that. That's been amazing. Wow, thank you so much.
It's my absolute pleasure. It's lovely to meet you all, and thank you for all thinking of a question.
Yeah, it's really great. I mean, I think we kind of all ended up with the same theme, really, though, didn't we? Really.
Yeah, it's only ever protein, creatine, and resistance training with me. No,
just slide it off.
There is more. I do just talk about more things with clients. It's just these are obviously the blanket topics. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's good to have that as a base, and then if you want more, then they can get in contact with you.
Yeah,
awesome,
absolutely.
great. Thank you so much, everybody. It's been lovely to see you, and I'm going to end it there. I'm going to end the recording, and hopefully you enjoyed that. And if you need to get in touch with Jools, then please do.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks ever so much for having me.
Thanks, guys. Thanks very much.
Bye.
I'll be in touch.